Hello everybody and welcome to the Royal Chess YouTube channel. My name is David Kaňovský and this is the second part of my serial about endgames of opposite colored bishops. Throughout part 1 we discussed some situations where stronger side cannot win even with 2 or 3 pawns up just because of the fact of opposite colored bishops on the board and the fact that through the color of opponent it is just too difficult to move on. And today at part 2 we shall discuss very important positions with 2 pawns against 0 and of course with opposite colored bishops on the board. So at the beginning one important question for you. Let's think about situation that you have 2 pawns against 0 and you can choose which 2 pawns you would like to have on the board. So you can of course stop the video and think about it for a while. And the right answer is that the best scenario of this is to have 2 knight pawns. So for example, to have this position on the board. Here white is really easily winning with pawns on b2 and g2 because black pieces are just impossible to protect both white pawns because they are too far from each other. So this is one of the really interesting rules of this type of endgame. Because in most of endgames it is really great to have connected passed pawns, for example pair of connected passed pawns, and if pawns are not connected, if they are isolated, they're usually weaker. But in endgames of opposite colored bishops another rule is coming into the fact. And in fact, the more closer are the pawns from each other, the more chance for weaker side to rescue the game. Of course, another situation would be with rook pawns, or at least one rook pawn, because as we have already mentioned at part 1, rook pawns are very unpleasant in the games with bishops, because if you have a bad bishop, so it means the bishop which is not protecting the promoting square of the rook pawn, weaker side can of course easily draw this endgame because king is just going into the corner and bishop is sacrificing for another pawn. But as I've said, with 2 knight pawns the situation is just absolutely clear and white is really easily winning in here. So on the other hand, as we have already mentioned at part 1, if we have 2 pawns and only 1 file between them, there is an opposite situation in fact, and that's almost always a very easy draw for a weaker side. So the important rule for this type of endgame is that if you have 2 isolated pawns against 0, you should have at least 2 open files between them. And if there are 2 open files, you can win, but of course not always, not all positions. And of course today we shall discuss some important positions which are winning and which are not winning. So let's start with one position which is very important, and it is with bishop pawns. If we have 2 bishop pawns, we shall usually win this endgame because 2 open files between them are enough in here, and the winning plan is quite easy here. So white is protecting his c pawn by bishop f3, and then he's going by his king to help going farther his f-pawn. And after f6, f7, the problem in this position is that black king cannot protect both pawns at the same time. He can do that only with 2 pawns with one file between them, but here it's impossible. So one black piece shall protect one white pawn, and another piece is protecting the second white pawn, but it is just not enough, because after bishop b4, king is just going to g7 square, and after king g7 we can see that black is just losing, because f8 is coming, king e7 is not helping because f8 is coming again. So this is important and typical winning position for a stronger side. But of course, not all positions with 2 bishop pawns are winning. For example, this is another very important situation with opposite colored bishops on the board, which is a draw. And here the reason is that black bishop has a principle of one diagonal. That's also one of the most important things in this type of endgame. I would like to mention it again. It is a principle of one diagonal, and if bishop is protecting both pawns on one diagonal, white cannot make any progress in here, because now f4 square is just protected. And of course here if white would go on b7, then of course king is just going to d8, protecting c7 square, and this is quite an easy draw. So the big difference is that with pawn on f3 the position is draw, but if the pawn would be already on f5, white is winning in here. So quite a little difference, but very important difference. But if we have in this situation bishop pawn and a knight pawn, position is already winning for stronger side, so for white in here. The reason is that here black bishop, or maybe better say black king is too low on a space on the queen side, and here if black is on the move, he is just in Zugzwang. He has no useful move in here. If black could stay, the position is draw, but it's of course not possible. And for example, after bishop c7, white is just playing king f5, king f8, 5, and when black king is going for protecting bishop on c7, after king c8, we can see of course that white is easily winning in here. So in this position, even when black bishop is doing principle of one diagonal and is protecting both white pawns, position is still losing for black. This is another very important position in this type of endgame, and here we have again 2 pawns against 0, 2 pawns with 2 open files between them. So on the first eye, we should think that black should be winning in here, and of course, if black would be on move, he's winning. That's right, because he would be playing king d2. And after king d2, white is losing, of course. But if white is on the move and he's playing king e2, of course, in here, the truth is that this position is a draw, which is quite interesting. But there is a very big difference between the position with 2 bishop pawns and between the position with a center pawn and a knight pawn, because here after b3, king d1, king b4, bishop h7, king a3, white is just making some moves with its bishop, and here if black is playing b2, white is just playing bishop b1 and making a fortress, and that is a problem with knight pawns in these positions, that here black king cannot of course go through to a1 square, because there is no way to get to a1, and white is just easily winning. And if black is playing king b2 with an idea of king a1 and b2, and then of course black would be winning, white needs to play important bishop f7 move. Now it is really important to attack pawn on b3, so stop black king from going to a1, and after king a2 just bishop e6, and still black cannot go on with his b pawn, because it's in alignment by white bishop. And of course after king a3, now black is threatening to play b2, and there will be a problem, but white bishop is again going on that the second diagonal, so b1 h7 diagonal, so he could play bishop b1 after b2. So thanks to changing these two diagonals, white is not losing this endgame, and this endgame, this position is a draw. So this is really important, and for weaker side in general, these positions are drawing with center pawn and a knight pawn, especially if our bishop, so the bishop of weaker side, is covering the promoting square of a knight pawn. But also if the bishop is not covering that square, chances for a draw for weaker side are quite good. But of course we cannot think in general in here, because it is really important how concrete is the position with two pawns, I mean with a central pawn and a knight pawn. So now at the end of part 2 of this topic, let's discuss situations with two connected pawns. In fact, as I've already mentioned, connected pawns are just great in almost every type of endgame, but in fact in endgames of opposite color bishops, it's not that true, because for example in this position, if black is on the move, of course white on the move is playing e6 and quite easily winning, but if black is on the move, he can make an easy draw. But of course it is really important to know where to go with your bishop, and here it would be a big mistake to play bishop g4, because with bishop g4 you are covering e6 square, so after e6 you can easily take on e6 and making a draw situation on the board. But here white is just playing king f4 with king g5, king f6 next, and of course e6, and white is winning. So it is really important to go on f7 here with the bishop. So you are not only protecting e6, but you are also attacking d5 pawn, which is really important, because now of course king f4 and that idea with going to f6 by king is impossible, because pawn on d5 is just hanging in here, and black is just going bishop g8, bishop f7, and so on, doing nothing, waiting, and again white has absolutely no progress in here. So this is a very important situation, very important position, how you can protect two connected pawns in this type of endgame, so in an endgame with opposite card bishops. So remember this if you didn't know it yet. But of course, we really cannot think that every position with opposite card bishops and two connected pawns is automatically drawing. This position, and it is really interesting in my opinion, is both winning for white and both drawing, because it is really important in here, and it is quite fascinating in my opinion, who is on the move. If black is on the move, he's quite easily drawing, because black can make a position which we already know. So with king f6, bishop f8 and bishop d6, making that fortress against f4, e4 and e5 by white, and then white just cannot win. But if white is on the move, after f4, bishop f8 and e4, we can see that black has no time to build this this fortress, this drawing position. He's just one tempo behind, so he has to build another one. So he has to play king e7, and after bishop c4, bishop g7. And it seems that we have same situation as in the previous example, but that's not true. The truth is this is a much different situation, because here after e5 and bishop h6, white is really not playing f5. It will be a horrible mistake, because after f5 and bishop g7, yes, we already have the same situation as we have seen in the previous example, and this is of course an easy draw for black. But there is absolutely no need for white to play f5 in here, and in fact for stronger side it is much better to have pawns like this on f4 and e5, because now pawn on e5 is protected by another pawn on f4, so the white king is now needed to protect the pawn, and he can go farther to the black position, and this is the reason why this position is already lost for black. Here white is just playing, for example, bishop b3, or just another same tempo, and in fact again black is in Zugzwang. It is good to mention, of course, that Zugzwang is one of the most important things also in this type of endgame, and really many times you can win the position just because of Zugzwang, of weaker side. And here again, what black can do, if he's going by king, so for example king d7, we can already play f5 with f6, because black cannot make his drawing position with king on e7 and bishop on g7. But after bishop g7, we can already play king g5, and this is in fact another Zugzwang. And after bishop h8, king g6, and it starts to seem that black pieces are really passive. And in fact after king f8, king h7, bishop g7, white is easily playing another tempo, for example bishop c4, and black is absolutely losing, because black has no more moves in here. After every move which can black make, he's just losing a piece, he's losing a bishop, and of course then white is easily winning in here. So this is really a nice example, if we go back to the starting position in here, that as we have mentioned, with pawns on let's say e5 and f5, the position is a draw, but with pawns on the second rank, so on the starting position, the position can be winning for stronger side. So throughout part 2 of this topic, we discussed quite important situations with 2 pawns on the board against 0 pawns, and as I've said, some of them are winning, some of them are drawing. It is really important what pawns are on the board, how many open files are between them, positions of bishops, kings, of course. But I believe that in general we discussed all important positions, and of course throughout next parts we would discuss also another ones, or very similar to positions in this part. So thank you for watching, thank you for liking my videos, thank you for liking Royal Chess, of course, and see you next time at part 3 of opposite card bishops.